Hello, people, and welcome to the Combat Sports Report for the first full week of September 2017. I am David Snipes from 7poundbag.com. Unfortunately, Gil has got some problems this week, so he will not be joining me, but I will be breaking down the UFC card and giving you my predictions. And I'm sure Gil will probably give you his quick predictions if you follow him on Twitter, which you should. All right, so first I want to go over last week. Gil took Struve, I took Volkov, and of course I was correct. And again, Struve ends his fights as he normally ends his fights, with his back up against the cage, not moving his feet, having zero cage control, and getting knocked out. Uh, Again, what does this mean for Volkov? Well, as I messaged Gil after we filmed last week's podcast, that Struve has brought in Simi Schelt to train with, who's a former K1 guy and an impressive fighter in his own right, who also has a lot of the same weaknesses Struve did. So he actually brought in the perfect guy to practice him. Struve has still yet to figure out how to use his range, and again, it cost him, and again, he went to sleep. Thankfully, this wasn't as bad a knockout as he's had in the past, and he'll come back. Because I do like him as a fighter. He's up there with me, kind of like with Roy Nelson. If he ever learns to put his gifts to good usage, he can make a good title run. But he never has, and in Roy's case, probably never will. So he's right there at gatekeeper status. Where Volkov goes from here, it's heavyweight. He could get a title shot off of this. It doesn't really matter. It's such a weak division. You put in 2 wins in a row in your top 10. All right, so let's dive into this UFC 215 card. But I just want to mention again that the score is 2 wins for David and 1 win for Gil. So let's just move on from here. All right, there's a couple of prelim fights that I think are fairly interesting. Let's start off with Sarah McMahon versus Caitlin Vieira. As usual, we're not going to go over every fight, just fights we care about. And since Gil's not here, my picks in these fights don't matter, so I'm just picking what I want to. I'm a big Sarah McMahon fan. I thought she was the one that was going to stop Ronda Rousey with her wrestling, because I just thought that with her stance, with her wrestling skills, with her hammer fist, I thought she wouldn't have a problem, especially with her stamina, if she was able to push Rousey. Turns out I was about 4 years too late, because she's finally coming to her own. She's fighting as I thought she always would. Uh, Ketlin does tend to fade a bit later on in fights, and I don't think she can really muscle Sarah around. So if you want to make some decent money on it, take Sarah. I think she wins this one going away if she doesn't stop it. So yeah, I'm saying the undefeated prospect loses. And speaking of undefeated prospects losing badly, we go to Henry Cejudo versus Wilson Race. I am still on record saying that this is probably one of the bigger misses that Dana's had in recent years as far as the flyweight division is concerned, because this should have been Ultimate Fighter. Cejudo versus Mighty Mouse should have been the Ultimate Fighter, not this tournament. Even though I did love the tournament, I think it was a marketing mistake. You should have had these two guys opposing coaches, brought in everybody else, and they still could have fought for the next title shot. That have given you two challengers, not just one. Especially with Benavidez winning, beating Cejudo after the show. Anyway, moving on. Reyes isn't a bad fighter, but Cejudo, he's got a better center of balance. Reyes isn't going to be able to push him around either, much like the last fight. Cejudo is going to be able to take him down pretty much at will. Reyes is going to have a hard time getting out from underneath the bottom. I don't think his striking is good enough to really bother Henry, to be quite honest with you. And I just think that this is your basic Rashad Evans classic. Take him down, beat on him for 10 minutes, and have a nice day. Drive home safely. Okay, now we go to the main card. And here we go with Gilbert Melendez versus Jeremy Stevens. I'll tell you, looking at this card, one thing I didn't notice: Gilbert's a monster name. Let's be honest, but he's 1-4. He's the only person he's beaten in the UFC is Diego Sanchez. I mean, true, he's lost against Vincent Henderson, Eddie Alvarez, etc., and so forth. So it's not like he's lost to scrubs. But the only guy he's beaten is Diego Sanchez. When he came over to the UFC, we all figured it was going to be, title contender, top guy, and all this. And now he's actually a even fight with Jeremy Stevens. We know Jeremy Stevens. He's always the guy that's going to be one of the last couple fights on the prelims. Always is going to be good for a good fight. good stand-up war, all that good stuff. He's kind of like Diego Sanchez. So you would think that Gilbert Melendez should take this fight easy, but when you really look at it, I mean, he got stopped, against Anthony Pettis. He got popped for steroids. He's only fought like once each of the last couple of years. Jeremy Stevens stays active. If you don't pay attention, he can take you out. I don't think Gilbert can really take him down. So I think you're just going to get rock'em sock'em robots for 15 minutes. And to tell you the truth, I don't know if Gilbert can keep up with his pace. I don't think the pace is there anymore. I mean, Gilbert's got a lot of wear and tear on his body, and he has slowed down the last couple of fights. I actually think I'm taking Stevens in this fight, and it's kind of depressing because when Diego came over, you kind of thought, he's going to get a couple of title runs in him. He's going to be impressive, and now he's going down a weight class and going to 1-5 in the UFC. I mean, does he have Coker on speed dial if he gets beat again? Okay, next up we have Neil Magny versus Rafael Dos Anjos. Magny again is huge compared to Rafael. I think he's got like 10 inches of reach on him. He's a good bit taller. He's not exactly bony, but the thing about it is Magny, not quite the welterweight Steven Struve, but he does tend to get his back up against the cage quite often. And if you keep after him, he does tend to get caught flat-footed once or twice. And when he has problems with fighters, that's usually what happens. When he gets pushed, he has to move backwards, he has to move side to side. He's got to move at backward type angles, and sometimes his foot will get stuck, and then he can get caught with a couple power hits. And I think that sets up Dos Anjos greatly. I mean, Dos Anjos can do a lot of good work. He's fought Diaz, Cerrone, he's good at guys with range. He's good at keeping pressure. He's good at standing flat-footed, just unloading if he's got to. It's going to be interesting to see what Dos Anjos does with him. But I'm actually taking Dos Anjos, but I'm not really overly confident in it. In fact, out of all these fights, I think this is the one I'm the least confident in, just because Magny improves so much from fight to fight, and Dos Anjos just, if he shows up at his best, he should win this fight easy. If he shows up average, he could lose this fight easily. He just doesn't play his potential, to be quite honest with you. So yeah, I'm taking Dos Anjos. Not really happy about it, but this should be a good fight regardless. All right, and for our last fight, we've got Emmanuel Nunez versus Valentina Shevchenko. To me, this fight's fairly simple. Nunez comes out. She's a hard hitter. She starts quick. She doesn't expect you to weather the storm, and she beats you. Shevchenko has already fought her once. She's felt her power. She knows what's coming. I honestly think that she allows Nunez to kind of punch on her for a bit. She rides it out. She works on her wrestling a little bit. And then she basically waits for Nunez to tire herself out. She's got 5 rounds to grind her. I think Nunez probably splits the first 2 rounds with her. And then Shevchenko basically just rides her to a decision. So that is my predictions for UFC 215. I am sorry that Gil wasn't here this week, but so you've got a little abbreviated session with me. By all means, like and subscribe what we've done. Make sure you hit that bell so you get our notification next week. Hopefully next week, Gil and I can kind of get in this Ben Askren situation. Kind of like to get his feelings on this. And who knows, Sean Jones may miss another drug test. But again, short and sweet. Welcome to UFC 215, and we shall see you next week. Again, this is David Snipes from 7poundbag.com. Thank you for taking a look at Combat Sports Report. Y'all have a